So the first thing that I'd kind of like to get straight would be, do I want to have a section, any section, where we have both the drum machine and the acoustic drums playing together at the same time? That's kind of less interesting to me than the idea of them being separate sections. For one thing, it just seems more problematic. It's probably going to be a train wreck and not sound so good. But also, I think it's kind of nicer to let both of those elements kind of help shape and define the arrangement. And if they're both playing together, then you only have one element as opposed to two. So that's the first thing. The only thing about that is that I feel like there could be some happy accidents that happen with them both playing together. Probably not. It's pretty busy, especially on the acoustic drums. It's really playing kind of freely in a lot of sections, and over the bar and around the time. And obviously the drum machine is right in there. So, but I just kind of want to hear it together first of all. So, if we look now in Nuendo, we have the VERMONA here muted. And let's mute the drum set for a minute and go back to the VERMONA. Let's hear the VERMONA. All right, let's also bring in the drum set and hear both of those together, just for funsies. See what that might sound like at any random spot here. Well, there you go. I like it. Is not what I would have thought. I would have hated it. I would have bet money that was going to be a complete disaster to put those two things together, because I wasn't monitoring the VERMONA drums. If you go back to that video where I was tracking the drums, the VERMONAs were muted out there, and I was just playing to the rest of the parts, but I like it. So that shows me that decision, because what I was going to do was go in and try to like make an arrangement of chopping out some of the acoustic drums to fit in, and then chop out some of the electronic drums. We still might do that, probably will, and as opposed to just having the whole thing play together. But what that satisfies, that playback, is that I can see I don't have to make that decision right now. We can worry about that later. And so we can move forward with generating the MIDI parts. If it had been the case, in case you're doing this, because if I made another track like this, it may not work out like that. It just happened to be this way. So if you're doing the same kind of process, I feel that if it is the case where you play with those two things back and it's all a mess, then I feel like it'd be better to go in and get your arrangement first and figure out which sections of the acoustic drums or whatever you might be playing on with audio, to get that first and then generate the MIDI parts, which is why I wanted to do that. So just make for less work later. So let's go in and get to generating the MIDI parts. We'll see how we do that. So what I'm going to do is, since we see that the Vermona is good, I'm just going to mute this back down for a minute, and I'm going to close this, and we will go into our kick drum. So let's just solo the kick drum for a minute. All right. So because that kick drum works so well with the bass drum in the Vermona, I think when we generate the MIDI part, just thinking off the top of my head here, I'm probably not going to use that to generate another kick drum, like another 808 or something like that, but it could be a bass synth part. Okay, so that's the idea. So here's how we do it. I'm going to go to our hit points, and we're going to edit hit points. All right, so that's a lot. So what we want to do then is just bring our threshold down, or up rather, just so we can see what we've got here. So you can see here is none, and let's zoom in a little bit here to what we've got. All right. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's pull our threshold down now so that we get most all of those. You can see back here we're missing a few. So those would definitely be ones I want. Let's bring it down a little more. And I want that one too. Now let's see over here. Yeah, we want those two. Let's just keep going with it. Let's get them all. Okay. Now we're going to go here. We're going to go to create and create MIDI notes. And at this point, it gives you the option to create the MIDI notes on whatever pitch information you want there. How long it's going to be. For our purposes, 8th notes I think are probably good. The destination, we're going to choose new MIDI track. And this part here, the velocity mode, that is important to me. If I was going to be generating say an 808 kick drum out of that was going to go along with all this, I might actually not choose the dynamic velocity. I might choose fixed velocity. I've just had better results with that in the past, because what ends up happening when I do the dynamic velocity is that then I end up wanting to put a compressor on it to even it out, and you could just have the fixed velocity and then if you want some variations to make it seem less robotic, you can go in and put those in manually. But you try it around, play around with it, see what you think. Both work pretty well. If you want it to be very humanized and like really organic, then I think using the dynamic velocity is the way to go. And since we're going to use a synth part for this, I'm going to choose dynamic velocity. The nice thing is if you choose dynamic velocity, it's really easy to go back in and level all the velocities out. You just pull everything up to the top at 128 and then a velocity MIDI scale, and then pull them all back down to wherever you like, and they're all chopped off even. The other way is not so true. If you do fixed velocity and then you want it to be dynamic, then you have to go in and you know, select each one and move it around how you like. C1 is fine for right now. We'll figure that out. Actually, change my mind. Let's make it B1 since we know we're in B Locrian. Just because. All right. That should do it. Dynamic velocity. Yes. Okay. And it will do it. All right. So then we close this out, and it should be down here at the bottom. Usually is. That would be it right there. And so what I'm going to do then, we're just going to leave all of these down here at the bottom, and we're going to call this kick MIDI. Okay. And now let's listen to the snare drum. Edit hit points, and we click this. Yeah, that's good enough. So let's zoom in here, wherever we might be, and see what we've got. Let's just bring our threshold up a little bit. Yeah, so you can see these notes like in here. That's I would prefer not to have those. You can hear like in these notes in here, that's on the cymbal. That roll, that press roll on the snare drum here, we didn't get that. We could pull this down more and try to get that too, but it's just going to be the one note there. I'd rather not have it. Let's listen in here. All right, I think that'll do it. Let's go to MIDI notes, and that's fine as well. Dynamic velocity, yes, please. And we'll do another one of those. Okay. And we'll label this snare. All right. I'm going to skip the toms, but I will do an overhead. I'll do a pass on the overhead here because it kind of gets everything. And if we want to have something that's like really a very busy, kind of chaotic synth part that tightly mirrors the drum part so that it sounds like it's all kind of put together and like, you know, gives the sense of it being really a tight arrangement. It's good to have that. And so what I might want to do though, let's listen now to the overheads only. Yeah, so that's with the threshold all the way down. That's kind of what we want from this part. So in this case, though, instead of 8th notes, let's choose 16th notes. And dynamic velocity will work. New MIDI track. And we'll hit OK. So down at the bottom now, we should have overheads. Find something that might be good. Let's go into Zebra and open up one of these. All right. So let's just take this overhead part here. See what we've got here in Zebra. And I believe this is just the default patch. Let's see what we have in here. We are in MIDI notes. And what pitch are we on? B. Let's bring the output down a bit. Let's see how that sounds. Pull our decay and sustain down a little bit here on that. We might try some different presets too, just see how it goes, but I kind of always like it with this default patch as a base with these MIDI parts. Let's just see how this goes. Let's try a few other presets just to see what happens here. What is this? Yeah, we're going to go back to this. We're just going to pull our decay and sustain down a little bit. Yeah, that might be too much. Let's see it here how this goes. All right, one other thing. Let's just see what this is like if we take this up an octave. Okay, I think I'm going to bring this back down so that this can be a bass voice proper. And so basically, what we're going to do at this point is to go through and just try out a few things with these MIDI parts, see what works, what doesn't, come up with some kind of arrangement that works with the MIDI parts, but that also works with the other drums, and piece some things together and maybe go in and thin out the MIDI in sections and also within the part, just so it's not static throughout of playing this way. And then after we get a few of those parts worked out and try them on some different virtual instruments, then we can move them over to the modular and start seeing how those work this way. Okay, I think that about does it for this one. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this audio to MIDI business. If it's a technique that you use, what your experience has been. I think it's really is a very creative way to go about making an arrangement that seems really tight, but also has a very large element of chance. It's really unknown exactly how the MIDI is going to react to a lot of instruments that you may assign that to, and then how that kind of plays out with the other parts that have been recorded, the audio parts that the MIDI is coming from. So it's this nice balance between like making an arrangement and crafting the parts and pieces versus letting things happen by chance and elements of unknown musical experiments. So anyway, let me know what you think about that. And if you have used this, in particular, if you've used MELODYNE, because I hear that it's got extra features and it's something I'm really interested in, especially also if you've used MELODYNE and used the Cubase slash Nuendo feature. I think they're similar but different. So let me know about that. Anyway, if you found this content useful, consider joining me over at my Patreon. Your support there is most appreciated and it helps me to continue making this content. But more so than that, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on the bell for notifications, and stay tuned for the next one where we will take the MIDI and assign that to the modular synth. All right, thanks for listening. Until next time.